Hey everyone, my name is Hung from Harvey Industries, and today I am introducing and kind of showing you the Big Eye rip fence system. This one specifically is our B52 fence, which is a 52-inch rail configuration. We offer, in this specific case, two rails options, which is a 36 or a 52-inch rip capacity fence. So in this specific setup, this is one of our prototypes, and I just wanted to do a quick video basically outlining how it's set up and the functions and the features of the Big Eye fence and why it compares or is different from the old style of fences. If we go over to this fence, this is our older style master rip fence. The master rip fence is an old design where all the locking mechanism or the clamping mechanism happens at the front or the tube part of the rail. So if you kind of come in close, and you'll see the way this happens is it's basically just a piece of metal that is clamping or grabbing the front side versus pads on the back that grabs the back side of the pads of the tube of the rail. So when you install this on there, and when you, in this specific case, I've exaggerated the way it clamps. So when you lock this down, what happens is because it's clamping only at the front, it leaves room for error of the fence deviating or moving as you clamp it down. So because of that, you'll get inaccuracies when you're trying to line up a cut because your fence is moving as you're trying to lock it down sometimes. So because of that, that's one of the features that we didn't like about this old fence design. Locking handle, again, being in the way when you're setting up a cut and you're moving around, there are likeliness of bumping into this handle. So again, part of the design changes was to move and relocate that handle to the upper side, which we'll see on the Big Eye fence system. We still loved our big high-low fences, this aluminum extrusion that you see here. This high-low fence is a very nice where you can set your high and your lows, but again, one of the things we ran into this specific fence is that every once in a while, it'll always rub and kind of touch the tabletop, which again, requires us to go underneath, shim it up, and then tighten these knobs. But again, that was one of the feedbacks that we got from customers and so forth, and we went back and redesigned our fence to, accommodate or fix that issue. Because it's a high-low fence, there are two different windows or viewers for measuring out your cut. And if you come in and take a look here, this high-low window, we got rid of this, and you'll see on the newer one, we actually made the scale, the tape scale, movable, making this obsolete. And I'll show that in a sec when we get to that part. So let's kind of go back to the Big Eye. Actually is, again, a table saw fence that allows you to get very, very accurate, setups. And when you lock the fence, there's little to no movement in the sense of deviation. So, and the way we achieve that is actually by having two clamping mechanisms, both not only in the back, but and the front as well. So if I take this off real quick, and I'll flip it over, and if you come in really close and look at this, you'll see that there's a clamping mechanism in the front of the fence, but also at the back of the fence. So when I actually clamp this, you'll see it clamps both front and back. So this fence is also adjustable, or this clamping mechanism right here is adjustable to allow you to be able to set for not only pretty much any table saw on the market, ranging from 27 inches to 31.5 inches in this case, 800 millimeters. And that refers to your distance from here, which is the front of the table saw, to the back side of the table saw. So look at your table saw distance front to back to determine how you set this fence for the clamping mechanism, because that'll be the key point or the key thing you'll have to understand when setting up this fence. If your table saw is a little bigger than the 31.5, which in most cases it will not be, then you might be out of luck. But 27 is a very standard number, and then there are a couple right in the between, and then our table saws, the Harvey Alpha series, is 31.5. So that 31.5 is how we have it set up in this specific configuration. Other key points, since I have it flipped over right now, are our roller steel bearings. There's 8 bearings, 4 that are linear or non-movable, stationary, and then there are 4 that are offset or eccentric, and these are adjustable. So what they do is that they are bearings that will glide at the front of the rail. If you look at the old versions of the fence, we use plastic to basically allow it to glide. But again, over time, plastic will wear, and we didn't want to do that. We opt for bearings because bearings are much nicer, and we get much nicer gliding effect. But why the 4 bearings are adjustable is that you want them to be able to adjust for the rails that are in the front. So if you come on over to this side and take a look, the way we designed our rails is that there's steel rods installed similar to like a track, or like let's say imagine like a train track. These bearings basically will made up on either side, one being fixed and the other one being adjustable, to allow you to adjust and made up against this perfectly and get no play or very little play out of it. By doing that, now we get a very, very nice fence that will glide and is guided by the front rail, but we also get clamping action from both front and back that allows you to get very little play when you lock the fence down. I'll show you how it's installed. So get your rails on there if you already haven't done so, and I'll kind of talk about that in a sec. But getting the fence in is just guiding the bearings into place, making sure that the back here, the clamping piece, is actually lined up with the back end of the rail, like here. Make sure it's in the place like so, and then from there it's just a matter of sliding it into place like that. Locking the fence, making sure there's clearance, and I'll just show you how you adjust the fence and so forth in a little bit. So key features. Updated design. We again still featured our high-low fence, but one thing that we did add to these high-low fence is that to keep the fence from touching the table, we add these little offset screws. So these, if you loosen this up, you're able to adjust the height of the fence. So setting up at the highest position, if you look at it, will allow you to raise the fence off the table so that it doesn't scratch or damage your table surface. So that was one of the things we added. So installing the fence, I'm going to switch it to the high position real quick to kind of demonstrate. You just simply loosen these knobs, slide the rail in place like so, and they'll rest on top of these, and then from there just lock the knobs back down like so, and that's how you switch from a low to high position. Now coming back over, since this fence is now in a high position, my scale is going to be inaccurate. So if you want to come on this side, I'll show you how this is zeroed out. Bring this fence up to your blade. So I have my blade raised up right now just for sake of demonstration. I'll bring this up, and this should be, again, your 0 position. But if you come over to the scale, you'll kind of see right now the indicator isn't on the 0 position. So remember, we got rid of the 2 window design and we made the scale slidable so that you can zero out to your high position like so. And how that happens is if you move the fence out of the way, these are little stops that will tell you where to slide it to. So you'll have one in the high position, and if you go to the other end, you'll have one in your low position. So I can slide this now to a low position, and that will always tell me that's my low fence setting versus my high fence setting. So little things that we added and changed to our fence design. If you also, while we're at the front of the rails or the saw, you'll also see that there's 4 these little red stops. These are flip stops, and these are basically adjustable, or you can be set at any distance. So you can move these around, and it's very useful when you are trying to set up a cut. You can just flip this out, and this will act as a stop for your fence. So this will always tell me this is a predetermined measurement from my blade, and I can always adjust those to wherever I'd like. Other things that you will also want to see is from the front, instead of one of the older on older fences, when you are setting up a cut, let's say you're setting up for a 1-inch cut, or let's say in this case I'm trying to set up for a 12-inch cut or 1 feet, I get close to my number, but sometimes I have to, you know, use my hands to bump it over to the exact measurement. I don't have to do that now because on here there's actually a little roller that allows me to make that fine adjustments without the need of me hitting it. So that was the other thing we added to our fence design. Like I mentioned earlier, the locking mechanism at the front is no longer there. We moved it up to the front on the top right here. So this locks down like so, rather than at the front where you lock down at the down below. Let's kind of talk about the installation. So when installing the fence itself, there are 2 pieces of the rail. You still have your back and your front part of the rail that needs to be installed. And when you install the rail, I have this loosened right now, we use these special hardware. Specific hardware has a high side and actually a low side. So I can actually use the pre-existing holes on your existing table saw or current table saw and install these hardwares and set it either to have your rail sit higher or flip it upside down to have it seated lower according to the height that you need to have it, which is in this case should be about roughly like 1/2 inch or about 11 to 12 millimeters. Installing the hardware is really simple. Just get that in place like so, attach the washers on the back side of it, and then install the nut to hold it in place. Don't thread it all the way in or don't tighten it all the way up. And what you'll need to do next is, once I get that in, like so, get it in a couple threads. You'll need it loose because what you'll need to do is match up the bolt with the T-slot that's on the rail. So the rail itself is slotted like so, and you'll slide it into place like so. And then so the installation of the rail is just a process of putting all the hardwares into place and then sliding the rail and matching it up with the slots. So get all that into place, line it up, slide it in, and then use a wrench to tighten all of the nuts, and that's how you install the rail. Super simple. From there, like you saw earlier, you get the fence installed into place, and out of the box, everything should be pretty much set already. If you install the rails, one thing to note or a trick is to make sure that your tables, meaning table saws will come in multiple pieces. So make sure all the pieces are lined up correctly, meaning they're flush at the front and the back end, because if they are not, it'll make it difficult to slide the rails into place. And then, yeah, from there, it's just a matter of installing the fence. And to square up the fence to the blade, there's at the front of so if you come on over here and take a look, so at the front here, there's actually screws that you can loosen. There's 3 on this side and 3 on this side, 6 in total. If you loosen these screws, you can actually square up the fence body to the blade or perpendicular to the table itself. So by doing this, I can loosen this and align my fence to my blade, making sure that everything is set up correctly. Once that's set up correctly, then I tighten these back up, and that should, again, help with setting up the fence. Height-wise, you don't have to do anything with the height. Again, those little screws that you saw earlier is what determines the height of the fence. The fence itself, meaning the aluminum extrusion, is again controlled height-wise by these little 3 fasteners that you see here or on the other side as well. And that allows the fence to sit above the table and not scratch. Again, I hope this helps and is a quick video to the introductory of our new fence system. If there's any questions, then please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to help.